Hey folks, hang on a second here. I don't know how the hell that happened. Phone just went off on me. How's everybody doing? Sorry about that. Welcome everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about Blue Oyster Cult, a band that I never really got into. So full disclosure here. So all my picks are going to be me basically going through these albums for the first time years and years later. I have no attachment to any record because I don't have a history with any record. Been preparing for this show, been listening to these guys for like the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, pouring through the catalog, trying to decide what kind of ranking I want, and I'm pretty happy with the ranking I have. It may freak some people out because, again, full disclosure, I'm coming at this as a new listener. But fortunately for me, I have two experts who are much more knowledgeable about this band than I am, and they are, of course, Mr. Martin Popoff and Mr. Pete Pardo. How are you gentlemen doing this evening?
Doing okay. Ready to roll.
Doing good, newbie. BOC newbie.
I'm a BOC newbie, and I'm proud of it.
Baby Oyster Cult.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's good, though. I mean, that's, you know, I do a weekly show called Recommend an Album to Review, which is like people suggest records to me that I've never heard before. Sometimes I know the band, but I may have not heard the record or a record I haven't reviewed on the channel. And you know, listening to it with fresh ears. And then it's like, okay, this is what I think about this. And it's really cool because I'm getting turned on to all this amazing music. Because, I mean, there's so much of it, you know, that passes you by or whatever. And, you know, I get to check out some really cool bands and some really cool music. So, you know, this is kind of the same thing for me today with BOC. So, but well, let me start with the question I always ask, because I know you guys definitely have a history with this band. So I'll start with Martin. When did you first listen to or get interested in Blue Oyster Cult?
Yeah, I don't know. I actually have no idea. It would have been one of the albums from the black and white period. But I remember wearing the heck out of the 1975 album On Your Feet or On Your Knees. I just have pictures of me lighting incense in my bedroom and playing that thing over and over and over again. The whole room is smoked right out, right? So yeah, that one. And then I don't even know if... you know, I don't have a memory of Agents of Fortune as a new release. I don't have a memory of Spectres as a new release. They are one of my favorite bands. I've written 5 books on this band. So we've got Agents of Fortune, Story of the Band, the panel book, Dominance and Submission, the 2 Imaginos books, and the big panel book. The big coffee table book, the full color, the picture book. So I'm definitely a big Blue Oyster Cult fan, one of my favorite bands. They were one of my earliest concerts on a family trip across Canada and into the States. I saw them on the Mirrors tour in Poughkeepsie, New York. And then amazing. Eh? And then I saw them at on Fire of Unknown Origin in Spokane, and that would have been one of my earliest concerts too, 1981. First autograph I ever got in the elevator going up, you know, from the hotel with Eric Bloom. I got him to sign a $1 bill, so that was kind of cool. That is now, but yeah, I just love this band. But to tell you, I just don't remember what the actual first memory was. It was probably 1974, 11 years old.
Wow. Okay. What about yourself, Pete?
Martin, I don't picture you ever being an incense guy. Very interesting. Learning some new things about my buddy all the time, right?
Oh, yeah. I had the cones. I had the sticks. I had everything. I had the holders, the little,
the black light?
Indian holders, everything.
Do you have the black light going too?
Had black light. Had a light organ. My dad was quite an inventor kind of guy. He was an IE teacher, right? And and he taught electricity and wood shop and metal shop and stuff. But he made light. Do you know how those light organs work? Right, where you just hook up your speaker wire, you splice into the light thing, and you get these big columns with and then you got the patterns on the front, and basically bass would light off your red lights, and treble would light off your.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh yeah, they were great. And I bought the little strobe lights. I had the black lights. I had everything going. Oh yeah.
Oh, the whole experience.
Learn something new about Martin every day. Look at that.
Nice. Yeah. What about you?
Well, I remember the first album I ever bought, but that wasn't my first exposure. They were one of those bands I heard a lot of their stuff on the radio and really liked it, but I didn't actually buy one of their albums till Cultosaurus Erectus, because a 14-year-old kid seeing this weird dinosaur-like monster on the front, I was kind of like, all right, I think now it's about time I buy a Blue Oyster Cult album, and I loved it. So yeah, it was probably that album. But then I went and started getting some of the older ones, and I saw them. Martin mentioned seeing them on the Mirrors tour in Poughkeepsie. I saw them in 1980. God, I think it was 82 in Poughkeepsie at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, which I'm assuming same place that you saw them at. And it was them and Uriah Heep. I don't remember what tour that would have had to have been. Revolution by Night, maybe. I guess. Yeah, I don't really remember, but that was the first time I saw them. And yeah, I've loved them forever. They're just a great band, and nobody sounds like them.
Yeah,
and they're just so different. And what I like is you can't really put a tag on them, right?
No,
like they're a hard rock band. They're not really metal, but they're kind of heavy in spots. They're kind of psychedelic. They're kind of proggy. They're always poppy. They're just a little bit of everything. And you got all these different singers and writers. And Buck's a great guitar player. And yeah, they're just so cool. And the albums are so many awesome albums in the catalog. And I just think they're great. And they're one of the most underrated bands of all time. They should have been bigger than they were. And they're much, much more than Don't Fear the Reaper, in my opinion. And that's kind of the song everybody knows, everybody loves. Everybody goes to see them live. That's all they want to hear. I'm like, yeah, it's a great song, but there's so much more to them than that. So yeah, I love them. Great band.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Like, for some reason, they get lumped in a lot with like the hard rock bands, but I mean, that's just one thing that they do. They're so varied. I mean, even on their records, I mean, I'm going to talk about this when I go through these albums. It's like every song is like, they're all different. They all have their own identity, all different styles. And like you mentioned, a little bit of prog, very poppy at times, very melodic, heavy at times, but not, there's like, there's so much variety, and then that's what makes the albums cool, because you never get that, here comes another heavy song, you never get that listener fatigue. Every song, the variety makes it an interesting listen from front to back, right?
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Alrighty. All right, let's get going here. So I got Martin on this side, so we'll go Martin and we'll go Pete. We're doing the top 5. And again, full disclosure, folks, I am relatively new to Blue Oyster Cult, believe it or not. In preparing for this show the last 3 or 4 months, I've been listening to these records like crazy. I'm pretty happy with my top 5. It's taken me a lot, but I'm sure I'm going to piss somebody off. If I do, I apologize ahead of time. All right. With that being said, go ahead, Martin.
Don't worry, I'll be ticking some people off too. So I'm starting my number 5. This might even tick some people off. I'm starting with Agents of Fortune. The number 5 slot was a little tough. There were I would say 4 other albums that almost made it into my 5th slot. My top 4 were solid. But Agents of Fortune is an interesting album in that, Love Reaper. It's probably not even in my top 10 favorite Blue Oyster Cult songs, but I love it. But I do love the heaviness of Tattoo Vampire. I love Sinful Love. It's proggy and heavy. I like This Ain't the Summer of Love, which is, we always thought that was such a heavy song because of that riff, but the production on this album is very weird, where the drums are really dialed back and they're not very groovy. They're a little jazzy, but that by absence and presence and math pushes the guitars forward a little bit. But yeah, ETI is really cool, kind of just a heavy, hard, rocky song, but you love it because it's about the Men in Black and aliens and all that. And Tattoo Vampire, written by Helen Wheels, is a really cool artsy vampire song. Revenge of Vera Gemini, written by Patti Smith, really cool psychedelic song. So this one's a little lower for 2 reasons. It's got a couple of songs that I'm not really big on. True Confessions and Debbie Denise are, these ones really shocked a lot of fans coming out of the black and white period and the live album, because these were by far, by a mile, the most poppiest things they'd ever did. It was a real shock to people, and I'm still not massively into them. But Morning Final and Tenderloin are pretty cool as well. So that leaves most of the album as I really, really like it a lot. Oh yeah, the second thing I don't like about this one very much is basically the production is kind of murky and weak and soupy and filmy and just foggy. So it's not the best in that respect. So it's a little all over the place, but this is the album that shocked a lot of people coming out of sort of the solidity of concept that you got with the black and white period. And the reason for that is they were all given TAC 4-track recorders, and they all went to their respective corners at home and wrote a lot of stuff and made better demos. So what happens with the band at this point is you start getting a real demarcation of personality between Albert and Joe and Eric and Buck and Alan, like all of them basically. You get writing styles where they're and then they hook up with one of their great celebrated famous lyricists. Some like working with others more or whatever. But that's why you get this real peaks and valleys album. But yeah, just snuck in. It wasn't a sure number 5, but it's my number 5, Agent Sports.
All right. What's your number 5, Pete?
Well, I was thinking if it was April 1st, I could be super contrarian on steroids and say Ghost Stories would be my number 5, but I'm not going to do that because it ain't that good. My true number 5, Hack's looking like I don't know what they're talking about.
I do. I know about that one.
Did you hear it?
I heard a couple of tracks. There's a couple of tracks with videos. I saw those.
I will say, Martin, I've grown slightly more in favor of some of the songs on there. I still don't think it's all that good, but I don't really dislike it as much as I did the first 3 times I heard it. Yeah. It's okay, for what it is. But anyway, my real number 5, now that I got that out of the way, is Spectres. Now, this is an album, if we would have had this conversation maybe 5 years ago, I don't think it wouldn't have been in my top 5 at all. But my love for it just keeps growing and growing and growing. And this is one of those albums that you look at it, at the album artwork. Martin and I talked about this not too long ago in another show we did on my channel. And it's just got this spooky, kind of dark, mysterious vibe to the whole thing, even the production. The music isn't as heavy as I think the album art portrays, but it's kind of weirdly heavy, but not Guitar Thunder heavy. It's got Godzilla, but once you get that out of the way, one of their biggest tracks. I mean, the Golden Age of Leather is so good. Death Valley Nights is so good. The pop hooks on the choruses are all over this album. I like Searching for Celine. Love Fireworks. Are You Ready to Rock is a good kind of BOC boogie type of thing. Celestial Dream, more amazing melodic chorus on that. Going Through the Motions is kind of their take on 50s music. It's okay. But I Love the Night is terrific. And Nosferatu is probably the heaviest song on here other than Godzilla. I think this is a crazy good album that has amazing songwriting and something that we talked about at the start of the show. You have all these guys and in the band and outside the band who are writing songs for them. Almost the entire band sings. So there's so many different flavors on an album like this. And it just, to me, it gets better and better with age. And I put it out there, I don't know, maybe 5 years from now, this might be a number 2 or 3 album from me, from the band. It's so good. I love the songwriting on it. The playing's great too, but it's all about the tracks on here individually. They all stand apart from each other. And I think it's absolutely terrific. So Spectre's my number 5.
All right. Very good. All right. So my number 5 is Tyranny and Mutation. For me, it's the rawness of this song, of this record. It's got that early 70s kind of guitar rock vibe, and it sounds like they recorded this very live off the floor. It sounds very live and very raw. The opening track, the Red and the Black, you got that cool up-tempo blues style shuffle with some great riffs. This is the only album that I really hear blues on is this one. OD'd on Life Itself, cool twisted boogie. It's got a great extended lead break. The lead. This is a guitar heavy record, which is another reason why I like it. Hot Rails to Hell, just a great driving track. It's got a really catchy B section. That's one of my favorites on here. Not a big fan of 7 Screaming Disbusters. Okay, it's a little bit long. Yeah, no. Baby Ice Dog is very cool though, and it's got that.
Martin, you didn't talk to before this episode, did you?
What's
Absolutely not.
No. Oh, is that okay? Yeah, Baby Ice Dog, cool. I like the jazz prog feel. The organ on it is very good. There is some keyboard on this, on that one in particular. Wings Wet It Down. It's got that psychedelic feel. It's definitely a song of its time. It's got some crazy fuzz tone riff. I love the crazy lead, the lead tone that he's using. Teen Archer, catchy, melodic, with a really nice keyboard solo. And then you got Mistress of the Salmon Salt, Quick Time Girl. The guitar fills behind the verse, and the hooky chorus is really cool. For me, it's just I like the rawness of it. It's just very real sounding, whereas the other picks that I have, you could tell they're very much more sort of produced. But yeah, I just like the rawness of it. I like that it's a guitar centric record, and something about that 70s kind of off the floor type style recording always appeals to me. And Buck's playing on this is just, I mean, on all the records, but he really shines on this one. So that's my number 5.
I know someone who thinks that album is depressing.
And clanky and creepy, and sounds like a 1968 album. But good enough on that. You won't actually be hearing me talk about those very much.
I forgot to fill it in for you.
My
Martin.
next one, you know how Metallica followed up a awesome blue album with an awesome orange album, and Blue Oyster Cult follows up this blue album with this awesome orange album. And there's a further similarity in that Master of Puppets is like checking off the boxes of all the different styles you get on Ride the Lightning. Kind of the same thing. This is the sister album. So this is my number 4, where you get a similar sort of light production sound, but it's not as murky. It's a little brighter, but still doesn't have any bottom end. But again, they go to all these different stylistic places, things that you think are going to sound pretty heavy, but they're not that heavy. Like, Are You Ready to Rock? I remember it was just clearly a heavy song in the 70s. It's not really that heavy. Golden Age of Leather, not really that heavy. Godzilla, Nosferatu's kind of proggy. But I just like it more for many of the same reasons as Agents of Fortune. I really think I Love the Night and Death Valley Nights and Fireworks. So the 3 mellowest songs on the entire album are the 3 best songs on the entire album. And they're just really classic, dark, classical, epic, although they're not that long. Really creepy stories, like what's going on. There's always a hint of the paranormal going on in these tales, right? And speaking of tales, Golden Age of Leather is just this great biker tale. And then it's got kind of the weaker songs, like I would say Searching for Celine is a little too funky. Celestial, the Queen's actually pretty good still. That's kind of like a Joe in Who mode sort of song. Joe has this kind of Who mode to it, and Godzilla is a great fun song as well. So that's my number 4. Always loved it, and it really is a sister album to Agents.
How do you like the production on that, Martin?
How do I? I find it. I find it good on the mids and good on the highs, but still lacking at the bottom. And it just doesn't really have any groove to it. They're still kind of a grooveless band, which I think they still have been all the way up to this point.
Yeah, it's a little pedestrian sounding to me, like, that doesn't leap out at you. But the
well, Albert even said, I remember a quote from Albert. He even said that we really wanted some of that Fleetwood Mac success. We couldn't believe how big Rumors and Fleetwood Mac were blowing up, and we wanted a little bit of that. We were a little ticked off, and so we wanted to write some lighter stuff and record a little lighter, right? So
yeah. All right, Pete, what do you got?
All right, my number 4, I'm going to go with the album I mentioned before, Cultosaurus Erectus. So the first of 2 produced by Martin Birch. And, you know, one of the reasons I asked Martin that question about the production on Spectres is because it's amazing how different they sound from like album to album throughout this period. So like this album sounds nothing like the albums that came before it, and doesn't even sound like the album that came after it, also produced by the same guy. So it's very bizarre how almost every album has such drastically different production values, but you know, whatever. But yeah, I still love this album. It's maybe a little heavier than the couple that came before it, marginally so. It's still very sophisticated sounding. I think Black Blade is a terrific, terrific track. I love Monsters. Divine Wind is great. Lips in the Hills, terrific. The Marshall Plan. Hungry Boys is kind of silly, but I still kind of like it anyway. I think even the stuff that's a little less serious on here and a little more whimsical is still fun. And I find that with a lot of the Blue Oyster Cult catalog. It's like a lot of their music to me is just very fun sounding. And it's like they don't take themselves too serious. I like the kind of dryness of the production on this album. The production of this reminds me, it's kind of like the Black Sabbath thing. You know, you got Martin worked with Heaven and Hell with them on Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules, and those two albums don't sound anything alike. You've got the kind of like the dry sound of Heaven and Hell and the wet sound of Mob Rules. That's kind of similar to Blue Oyster Cult and Cultosaurus Erectus and Fire of Unknown Origin for me. This is more the dry sound. I like it though. I think it's a really great album. Love the album artwork and a lot of great songs that sadly they a couple you see pop up in their set list from time to time over the years, but I wish they would revisit this a little bit more than they do. But anyway, I love it. Number 4.
All right. So for my number 4, Fire of Unknown Origin.
Yes.
All right.
Unlike my number 5 pick, which is nice and raw, this sounds very produced, but good also. There's a lot more prominent keyboards on this record compared to Tyranny. It's my number 4 because there's some really, really good songs on here. The opening track, Fire of Unknown Origin. The verse is a little lackluster, but it's got a catchy chorus, and there's this really cool musical break that make up for it. Burning for You, the big single. This is one of my favorite BOC songs. This is a song that I'm not tired of. It is the perfect song in its arrangement. Everything on here is a hook. The verse is a hook. The chorus is a hook. There's that beautiful walking bass line during the verse that is just magic. I love that song. That's one that I never tire of. Then you got Veteran of the Psychic Wars. It's kind of like the title track for me. It's okay. I do like the guitar solo. It's got a nice delay effect going on there. Soul Survivor. It's got that great hooky chorus. It's a good track. Heavy Metal, the Black and Silver. It's got that big fat Godzilla riff. It's very cool. I really like this one. It's heaviest track here for sure. And it's in the name, Heavy Metal. So Vengeance, another great song, standout track for sure. After Dark, not too crazy for that one. It's okay. Then you got Joan Crawford. I mean, man.
Yeah.
I love that piano intro. It's just incredible. It's that very dark and dramatic. It's a standout track on this record for sure. Then you got Don't Turn Your Back. That is not a favorite for me. That one and After Dark are kind of for me the weakest tracks on here. If it wasn't for those weaker tracks, it would be higher up. But this album is killer. And I'm not a keyboard guy normally, but I do really like the keyboards on this, and just great musicianship all around on this record. Yeah.
They use keyboards pretty nicely, I think, throughout the catalog. I mean, Alan Lanier was really good at layering those in and not
tasty
too upfront, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very tasty. Like you hear him in the key moments, and he's got, just like, you got little guitar fills. He's doing these little keyboard fills during verses and such, and yeah, really, it's like a nice extra hook to the layered to the song, right?
And in a general sense, he goes from Dorsey keyboards to piano to synthesizers, kind of throughout the years, a lot. So, okay, this might be a bit of a surprising choice here, because I've often called this my favorite Blue Oyster Cult album of all time, and now it's coming in third today.
Wow.
and we did a Contrarians episode, and I did a whole episode on this as my favorite Blue Oyster Cult album. But so yeah, still love it to death. Basically, I think it's the best sounding Blue Oyster Cult album. It's got tons of bottom end. It's got bright highs. It's got strong enough guitars when it's heavy. It's not particularly heavy. So I think it's the most high fidelity album they ever made. But you could compare it to things later like Heaven Forbid or Curse of the Hidden Mirror or Symbol Remains. But besides those three, I don't think any of them hold a candle to this. And it's produced by Tom Werman, who I generally diss quite often because I don't think he gets very good sound for a lot of his other bands like Cheap Trick and Ted Nugent. Motley Crue's a whole different thing. But this sounds great, and it doesn't sound like Tom Werman. Now, the songs, the reason I have it so high and why I've considered it my favorite album of all time before by this band is I think The Vigil is the greatest song they ever did. Still believe that. It's just my favorite Blue Oyster Cult song. Heavy, crushing riff, proggy, gorgeous production, great story. But I love sort of the Styxy pomp rock of Mirrors and the Great Sun Gesture. In these great the mid heavy ones, I've always liked I Am the Storm and Dr. Music. I'm a little down. I don't like You're Not the One I Was Looking For very much. That's famously hack. I don't know if you know this story, but Albert wrote that as a joke, as a parody song of the Cars. You're Not the One. I guess that one, right?
Right.
Anyway, it's so written to be a Cars parody thing.
Yes.
And then his horror. Everybody said, no, we're going to put it on the album. And he freaked out. No, don't, we're going to get a lot of heck for it. So I don't like it very much either. But yeah, Moon Crazy's all right. In these, just kind of like, it's a rare Alan Lanier song, but it's just kind of an acoustic ballad. The acoustic guitars sound amazing on this album. Beautiful, beautiful production there as well. So yeah, I just like all of it. And there's a couple songs I like a little less, but then there's 2 or 3 or 4 Mirrors, Sun Gesture, and The Vigil that I really love that I think are great ones. So that's my number 3, Mirrors.
So it's funny because I heard that record and I'm like, man, that sounds just like the Cars. So I, without knowing the story, I mean, it was really, really obvious. It sounded like a lot of like Just What I Needed. It's got this sort of muted guitar and then the big, it's got that total vibe to it. Yeah, cool.
But it's the same sort of thing. Like this band has always been a little bit cranky and as Pete said earlier, they should have been bigger sort of thing. And that always was in their minds. So they get jealous when these bands get these big hits. It's like, well, who are these Cars guys, right?
Yeah, we're going to check those boxes, damn it. Yeah. All right, what do you got for 3, Pete?
Well, color me surprised that album came in at number 3 for Mark because I know how much he loves it, and I will give him all the credit in the world for making me realize how much more I like and appreciate Mirrors than what I used to. Because I think it didn't make my top 5, but I like it a lot more now than I ever did, based on Martin really pumping it up with me over the years. It's a fine album. My number 3 though is going to be Tyranny and Mutation. Love it. Love the heaviness of this album. There's just some classic songs, The Red and the Black, OD'd on Life Itself, Hot Rails to Hell, and I don't care what either of you guys say, 7 Screaming Disc Busters kicks all sorts of ass. And I love Teen Archer, and Mistress of the Salmon, Saul Quicklime Girl, is absolutely terrific.
Yeah, that's great.
That's one of those songs that just, man, I hear it and I can't get it out of my head for hours afterwards. Yeah. So I just think
that this girl.
Oh, it's so good. It's just so good. I like the fact that this kind of each side of the original album has like a different feel to it. I think it's really cool. I love the guitar playing on this album. It's for the most part a pretty kick-ass, heavier album for them. But and I love the cover. I mean, that cover artwork is just absolutely amazing. So yeah, that's my number 3, going back to the Black period. Yeah,
like the guitars are not glossed over. They're heavy and they're in your face raw. And that's why I like
pretty about them on this one,
Yeah, that's why I dig it. Even though it came out when Martin 68 or something.
Yeah, all right. That's my problem with the first 3. I think they all sound really dated, right?
Yeah. All right. So this is the one that's gonna raise some eyebrows, I'm sure. But this is my number 3. And again, I'm new to BOC, but I really like this record, man.
No, nothing wrong with that.
Heck,
Heaven
everybody
forbid.
loves that. I mean,
Yeah.
all the deep fans that's
Oh,
their
really?
favorite newer record. Yeah.
Okay, so I made the cut. Okay, good.
That could arguably, forget about what I just said. That arguably could be their heaviest album right there.
Yes, yeah, and that's which is one of the reasons why I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, but it's got really heavy tracks, but it's like a heavy track, then a mellow track or a melodic track, then a heavy. They alternate, right? So it's got a really nice mix of both. I mean, See You in Black. I mean, as an opener, what a great heavy opener, man! It just had this awesome, crushing riffs. Then the next track, Harvest Moon, is completely different, right? It's mellow. It's a very mellow, melodic, kind of catchy, very hooky song. Then you got Power Underneath Despair, gets heavy again. It's got the great vocal and awesome riffing. It's got this beautiful B section before the chorus, which is awesome. X-Ray Eyes, a mellower track. For some reason, I don't know, I get a little bit of a Rush vibe on that track for whatever reason, but it's got a really catchy chorus and a fantastic solo. But this is the song that absolutely blows my freaking mind. Hammer Back. Holy shit. It's got that heavy, infectious riff. It's so simple. I mean, it's there's nothing to it, but it's so effective. And it's got to be one of my favorite tracks on here. Great guitar again on that. I love Hammer Back, man. I mean, just talking about it, I can hear it. Hammer Back. Yeah, it's infectious. Then you got Damaged. Got a nice little funky jam going there. Again, something a little different. Cold Gray, Light of Dawn. It's a little heavy, but like a little slower track, very melodic. The chorus again is killer. Real World, you got this absolutely beautiful acoustic guitar going on there. It's got the big chorus. Live for Me, it's got a beautiful lead line that runs through it. It's just a beautiful song. And then Still Burning, which I understand is sort of like the part 2 to Burning for You, I think. I read that somewhere. Anyway, that's got, again, a really nice grindy guitar with some beautiful parts over the vocal. For me, for this record, I love it because the material here, the variety of the material is so cool. It's basically, this is a guitar record again. Shows off Buck really, really well. His parts and his solos here are absolutely killer. Love this record. This is my top 3 can shift at any time. This could have just as easily been 2 or 1. So killer record.
I got no issues with that.
People basically think Harvest Moon is their greatest late song, right? Live for Me is great. Great drumming on it, great production. So yeah, super heavy. So okay, so I'm up to number 2, right? So my number 2, I'm going with Cultosaurus Erectus. I just totally I look at the tracks on here. Like I can't stand Divine Wind. That's just such a dead to me song. I just hate it. It's just a dumb, dopey blues. I don't even like the lyrics. And then really the rest of it is either really strong or quite strong. I mean, it's got some of the great heavy songs on it. Lips in the Hills is one of my favorite heavy songs by them. Black Blade is probably my second favorite Blue Oyster Cult song ever. And Monsters is great with the little jazz breakdown in it. It's got the great Martin Birch production, so it's really, but it's still got this sort of tight mid-rangey urgency to it. But things like Deadline and Unknown Tongue with David Roeder's lyrics about Catholic girls and all this stuff. It's a really cool, creepy story as well. That's just an unheralded classic on here as well. You got another Who song from Joe with Fallen Angel. Hungry Boys is fast and heavy. Oh yeah, Marshall Plan. Yeah. So Marshall Plan, hate it, can't stand it. So this has actually 2 songs on this album I just can't stand at all. And that's Marshall Plan and Divine Wind. But the whole rest of it, love it to death. Really, really cool. And Black Blade is just such a classic with that riff, the do-do-do, the octave sort of jumping riff thing on it. So yeah, this is a good, dark, back to, as Albert says about this album, we were back to the Mysterioso Blue Oyster Cult after, Mears was so heavily rejected by the fans. So this is good, creepy, monstery lyrics again, and it's a pretty heavy album and not very commercial. Although like they almost spill all the commercial stuff into 1 or 2 songs and tried to get a hit, but it didn't have a hit, didn't go gold or anything. But yeah, good, heavy, classic album. Cultosaurus Erectus number 2.
Awesome. All right. What's your number 2, Pete?
Let's take it one album further and go Fire of Unknown Origin. Absolutely love it. Everything Hack said, I agree with. Except there's maybe a couple. I think Veteran Psychic Wars is absolutely terrific. I listened to this on my way back from my parents a couple hours ago. I went and had dinner with them and getting ready for the show tonight. Just reminds me how much I love this album. Title track is great. Burn a Few is a great single. I love Veterans of the Psychic War. Soul Survivor has become one of my favorite songs on here. Heavy Metal, Black and Silver, Cranks, Vengeance is awesome. After Dark, I agree with you. Not one of my favorites here, but I don't mind it. Joan Crawford is brilliant. Don't Turn Your Back is okay. I agree with you. I think that my two least favorites are yours, but everything else on here is absolutely top shelf stuff. Love the album cover. Love the production of it. And I like the fact that they've played a lot of these songs live over the years. And I think they also totally get that this is a special album. I just wish this was a bigger album than it actually was. Because this just, to me, every time I listen to them, like, how is this not like one of the biggest heavy rock albums of the year when it came out? I don't know. But yeah, awesome. My number 2, without a doubt.
All righty. Well, Martin, we are thinking the same.
All
Cultosaurus Rex is my number 2.
Yeah.
Oh man, Black Blade. What an opener. I mean, that fanfare riff at the beginning. I love the different parts and the arrangement here. Everything flows perfectly. That song has got a lot of different parts that go through it. And I mean, it's so arranged, it just plays through really, really well. Then you got Monsters, got that cool riff. And then they throw in that jazzy section. What a great twist that is. I mean, there's some BTO going on there. I love when they mix styles like that, you know. Yeah, just a beautiful instrumental break there as well. Divine Wind, great driving bluesy. I love that stuff, man. Great driving bluesy groove here. It's got a great solo, and the instrumental break again is killer. Deadline, to me, that sounds like a really twisted pop song in the verse. And then you have that beautiful melodic chorus. Again, you get that great combination, that juxtaposition. I love it. You don't like the Marshall Plan. I wrote down here the Marshall Plan is a masterpiece. It's a fully, you know what it is? It's a fully fleshed out jukebox hero story. That's what it is. You know, and then having Don Kirshner on it. I mean, it's just a fantastic track. I love that. It's so epic and cool. They got Hungry Boys. It's got that great catchy chorus. Fallen Angel, very new wavy and awesome, very hooky. Lips in the Hills, great heavy riffage, awesome track. Unknown Tongue is a great closer. The piano break on that is killer. This record, for me, there are no dogs here. Right, previous one I said there was 2 weak tracks. Yeah, this one really doesn't have any weak tracks. I mean, I love the extended musical breaks on some of the early songs on the record, and those unexpected twists and that. I like when stuff, you know, when songs do that and they take on a little ride. It's just an absolutely killer record. It's a fantastic freaking. This again could have been number 1. Like the top 3, I said they could just shift. But yeah, it's an awesome record. Love it. So there you go.
Cool. All right.
All right, we're down to number 1.
Okay, so number 1, I'm going with Fire of Unknown Origin. Funny thing about this album, as I play it, it's just the strongest start to finish. I'm going to totally disagree with you guys, though. I love After Dark. To me, that epitomizes a cool thing about this album, and what that is, it's kind of like a really cool, dark Stranglers, new wavy sort of sound. You get a lot of good Alan Lanier synthesizers on this album. So Fire of Unknown Origin feels like a Stranglers song to me. Burning for You is awesome. Veteran of the Psychic Wars is atmospheric and cool and proggy. Soul Survivor is just a good, creepy story, poppy song. My least favorite song on here actually is Heavy Metal, the Black and Silver, because it's too obvious. It hits you over the head with that title and with that riff and stuff. So it's weird that I would think the heaviest song on here is my least favorite. But Vengeance is amazing too. So that's proggy and heavy. But yeah, After Dark is just like fast and urgent. It's really got a Stranglers kind of Devo, Cars, new wave sort of thing to it. But I really love the chords. And Joan Crawford, absolute epic. And Don't Turn Your Back is just this cool, spooky, atmospheric sort of poppy thing. So really, I'm basically loving everything on this album except for Heavy Metal to Black and Silver. Now, the last thing I want to say about this record is I'm thinking about it, and it feels a little bit like a guilty pleasure because this feels like them acting very commercial compared to most of what came before. Now, you can argue, Mirrors is them being very commercial in a certain way, but this one, it's like, it feels like they're really going for the bells and whistles and trying to be really immediate and get on the radio and have interesting, quirky synthy sounds and all that sort of stuff. Be really spare and fast and up tempo. And so it sounds flashy, like they're trying to be commercial. So there's sort of a weird, it doesn't feel like as artistically serious as Cultosaurus Erectus does, but I just love it as a guilty pleasure. As I look at the track list, it's like, man, this is just start to finish so much fun. Just so easy drinking, right? And just a lot of variety. And it also, even though it has that variety, it hangs together with that sort of like, we've picked up some really good habits from the new wave on this album, but it's still punchy and heavy at the same time. So yeah, that's my new number one.
New number one, cool.
New number one.
You heard it here first, folks.
That's right. That's right.
All right, what do you got, Pete, for number one?
All right. Do any of my Sea of Tranquility folks watching think I have a new number one? Nah. Secret Treaties. It's always been number one. It's still number one. To me, other than maybe Cagey Cretins, which I like, I love everything else on this. And to me, this is a damn near perfect record. I think Career of Evil is just hauntingly delicious. Subhuman is probably my favorite song on the album. Dominance and Submission crushes. ME262 is a great kind of like boogie for them. Harvester of Eyes, awesome. Flaming Telepaths, awesome. And then how better to end an album than with Astronomy, which has, probably my favorite Buck Dharma guitar solo, even better on the live record. But yeah, I just absolutely love this album. I like the production. Again, it's like the songs are heavy, but it's not produced like a heavy metal album. It's more like the weight of like the feel of it, the lyrics, and just the vibe of the whole thing. I just think it's amazing, and it's been my favorite Blue Oyster Cult album for as long as I can remember, and it's one of my favorite albums of all time. So yeah, Secret Treaties, no surprise there.
See, Pete, to me, those three albums are like watching the Munsters, but watching Mirrors is like watching Gilligan's Island, right? So that's the way I look at it.
I love the Munsters, Martin.
Yeah, and I like Gilligan's Island better. So,
I like Gilligan's Island too.
Okay, well, this one's been mentioned, but this is my favorite out of the bunch.
Nice, wow, cool.
Spectre, man, Spectres. I mean, Godzilla, a great opener. Love the lyrics. Oh no, Tokyo. I mean, it's funny, right? Golden Age of Leather. Man, that takes you on a ride. You got that, starts off one way, and then you got that change up halfway through. Just love the transition. It's great. Death Valley Nights has got a really cool vibe, and that chorus is just so poppy and great. Searching for Celine got that funky riff, which is okay. The B section's got a little piano in it, which I really like, and the tag out is very cool. There's some really great guitar work on the tag out. And then Fireworks. I don't know what it is about that song, but that chorus just hits me for some weird reason. It just puts a big ass smile on my face. I'm like, I don't know why I'm smiling, but I'm smiling. I just love that freaking song. I don't know why. I just love it. There's something about, I mean, it's a cheesy tune, but I love it. I don't know why, but I just do. Anyways, then you got Are You Ready to Rock? It's, them basically playing Mississippi Queen. It's heavy and it's cool. It's got a really cool chorus. Celestial the Queen, that's a favorite of mine here too, man. It is, everything on that song is absolutely great. The verse is great. The chorus is great. That's like, another perfect song, They got Going Through the Motions. It's got that sort of keyboardy 50s feel, very poppy track. But again, for whatever reason, it appeals to me. I like that. I Love the Night. The vibe on that is amazing. There's a guitar part that he plays on the pre-chorus that's just, it's beautiful, you know. And then you got Nosfer 2 to get very dark and moody. Another great track. I mean, I picked this song or picked this record as my number one because, like I say, it just has moments on it that just really, really hit me hard for whatever reason, you know. So, I mean, consistent, like Cultosaurus Rex overall, I probably like the songs, you know, I like those songs too, but they don't have the moments that this record has. And this is one of their popular records. It's not a heavy record, really. And it's got a lot of cheese to it, but man, for some reason I like this cheese. The cheese tastes good. So yeah, that made my number one. So
I would argue that Spectres has probably the best choruses of any of their albums.
oh my god, right? They're insane.
Yeah, that could be right. Yeah,
you know it.
That's a great point.
The choruses are always like, even the verse, like the verse could be kind of like very kind of low and subdued, and then the chorus just kind of leaps out at you and just grabs you by the lapels. You know what I mean? It's and like Fireworks is a perfect example of that. You know, you got sort of a, you know, so verse, and then you got, you know, that chorus that just comes in. You know, da, na, 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 na. It's beautiful. The harmonies that nobody's mentioned. Look, it's some of the vocal harmonies on these songs, but their harmonies aren't, I mean, come on. I mean, there's like on Fireworks, for example, just absolutely gorgeous vocals, harmonies. You know, I mean, Eric Bloom, I forgot to mention on one of the songs, I think I mean, maybe I did. Some of his vocals are fantastic. I love Buck's voice as well. There's one guy, actually the guy who sings Fireworks, you experts can help me on who sang that song.
I think that's Albert on that one.
Yeah, I think it was Albert.
Is it Albert? Yeah, there's one guy that's got a little bit of a pitchy thing, but you know, it's got a little bit of character to it, so it's cool. But when the chorus comes in with those harmonies, it's just, man, I'm off to the races. I got the big smile, and I'm happy.
Heck, you know, you'll appreciate this. You know how we talked about how no one else sounds like this band. The one band I can see, if you wipe the vocals and the lyrics off and put on Blue Oyster Cult vocals and lyrics, Max Webster. Because you got the same amount of poppy songs, you got an interesting keyboard narrative, you've got exactly kind of like a third of every album is heavy, and it's got a little bit of a sense of humor. So, you know, even sense of humor in the music, and they both like their sound effects and little you know, ear candy things. So yeah, you could picture those Max Webster albums. It just has the same you know, mix of elements that you get with Blue Oyster Cult. And I always imagine, wouldn't it be cool if these bands got together and tried these experiments, right? Like wouldn't that be cool if they said, okay, let's wipe all our vocals and lyrics off these albums, let's switch our catalogs and record over the top, write some new stuff on top of your music and see what it sounds like.
It's an interesting point, because I think, you know, Martin, if you were to have Max Webster add a little bit of psychedelia and that kind of like spooky vibe that BOC has on a lot of their albums, I think you're spot on with that assessment there.
Yeah,
that's really the only thing they're missing.
Yeah, and I suppose I'm not talking about the black and white period so much, right? Because Max Webster starts in 76, and so Blue Oyster Cult starts with the color period in 76. So it's more like those albums forward. But you think of a Mutiny Up My Sleeve or High Class and Borrowed Shoes, those could all be Blue Oyster Cult songs. You know, easily, right? They're proggy. There's a little bit of blues. There's great ballads. Everything there's there. Even the production sounds like Blue Oyster Cult. Even the performances. To
there's a level of sophistication that both bands have, I think.
Yeah. There is more prog on the Max Webster side of things, though. That's the one thing. I mean, there's like little elements of prog with the stuff that the Blue Oyster Cult, but not as prominent as on the Max Webster stuff. That's the one thing. So like if Blue Oyster Cult got a little more proggy, then they get closer to Webster, right? That's what's missing from this end of it. So but
and
cool,
then the 79 album from both of them is their poppiest. You got Mirrors and A Million Vacations.
Million
and then
Vacations.
You know, Universal Juveniles sounds like it could be a heavy Blue Oyster Cult album, right?
Yeah, that's more of a guitar-centric record. Yeah.
So, Hack, I'm curious, brand new to the whole catalog, what did you think of The Symbol Remains, which, if you know, probably would have been might be my number 6.
Yeah, that was close for me too.
Yeah.
You know what? Here, I'll tell you, because I had it narrowed down to 10. Okay, and then I was um, going from the 10 down to. So I'll tell you what just missed. Here we go. Guess what number 6 was? The Symbol Remains.
There you go.
That would have been my number 6, and then Agents of Fortune would have been my number 7. Secret Treaties would have been 8. The debut would have been 9. Yeah, and yeah, I got Imaginos as 10 here. I don't know why, but anyway. But yeah, they're yeah. It's funny because being new, 3 out of my 5 picks you guys had on your lists.
Yep.
So what does that tell you?
Shows you have good taste. You figured this band out, and you picked the albums that a lot of deeper fans like, right?
Yep.
So,
Well, I was gonna say is good albums are good albums. It doesn't matter when you hear them, right?
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. All right. So Martin, I know you got some new books coming out. I just saw another thing today.
yes, earlier today, so a few hours old, is the Led Zeppelin visual biography. So this is basically your hardcover with a pile of pictures and text, the detailed timeline, just like the other ones. And then earlier this week was Van Halen at 50, also hardcover, and also, full color throughout. 50 career highlights, just like the Kiss at 50 and the AC/DC at 50 and the Bowie at 75, and the other ones by some other writers too. So so that's a beautifully designed one through Quarto, and the part of the series here, which has had a bluish occult, a Lizzie, a UFO, a priest, blah blah blah, Nazareth. Yes.
All right, I got a link below to Martin's website, and also I have a link to the other channel that you're on, Contrarians. I got that down there below as well. What about yourself, Pete? What's coming up?
Well, Martin and I will be back in action tomorrow morning. So neither one of us are sleeping tonight. We're both staying in our respective offices, so we can just wake up in the morning and do this all over again. But we have another show. We've been doing this whole series on throwing a few catalogs up in the air and ranking them all. So tomorrow we're going to do what do we call this? The baby metal bands, Martin, something like that.
Yeah, we'll figure it out in the morning. It's essentially the second wave American baby bands.
Yeah.
Angel Stars, Riot, Legs Diamond, all those
Derringer.
Guys. Derringer. Yeah.
So we're going to rank all of those albums from the 70s from those bands. I think there's 21 of them. So that's coming up tomorrow. And then I'll be doing ranking the albums show on Sunday, ranking Steve Vai's catalog. So we got that. Right. And Jamie Laszlo is going to be heading up the review crew on Saturday. So we've got a bunch of folks reviewing some new albums there. So yeah, normal stuff happening. Lots of fun.
Cool. Well, folks, if you're new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. Check out my playlist, album rankings. We've got 3 years worth of this, I think, or something like that now. So lots of previous shows to check out. Also, please check out my original music. I have that on a playlist as well. All my songs are available on all the streaming services. Just search Guitar Hack. I also have a playlist with those songs as well. If you want to help support the channel, links are below. And check out another show that I do every Thursday. I didn't do one tonight because I'm doing this with these gentlemen. But once a week, I do a recommend an album to review. You folks suggest a record for me to check out. If it's an album that I haven't already reviewed on the channel and it's a single album, something I can digest in about a week's time, I may very well pick it and do a review on it and let you know. The last show I did, well, you guys know, I mean, I knew this record, but I've never done it on the channel. Sparks, Kimono My House. Oh my God. I had listened to that record in like 30 years and I'm just sitting there going, oh my God, this is so good. Yeah. So there you go. All righty. So I want to thank everybody for watching. You guys absolutely rock. And we will see you hopefully next Thursday for the recommend an album to review. I want to thank these gentlemen once again. And cheers. Take care.